Hey guys, Cassandra Starseed. Today we're going to talk about the biowarfare going on with Enterovirus D68 and Ebola, and then I'm going to talk to you about the cure for Enterovirus D68 and Ebola, which we already covered the Ebola cure in my last video. Today we're going to talk about the Enterovirus cure. So this comes from the Common Sense Show, and I thought it was a really good article, so I'm going to read it. And then we'll move on to the next article, and then we'll talk about the cure, okay? So, one of Sun Tzu's strategies for war commands generals to place their soldiers on death's ground, where they either have to successfully fight or die. The American troops fighting on Omaha Beach on D-Day, June 6, 1944, is an example of this principle at work in history. Shortly after the landing on Omaha Beach, the American casualties were so horrific and the leadership was so decimated, the American battle was planned ceased to exist. The only way the American soldiers were going to get off that beach was to adapt and find a way to win the battle, or they would leave the beach in a body bag. The Americans adapted, developed a new plan, and fought their way inland. The principle of Sun Tzu describes how and why viruses become so dangerous. As being placed on death's ground, adapting and mutating is how a virus lives to fight another day and what makes them so difficult to treat. The American people are in the midst of being placed upon death's ground as well. Every facet of our life is under attack from globalists. The human race's right to exist is under attack from a determined enemy who serves Satan and is committed to our collective destruction. The intention of this article is to cast light on a present set of viral cocktails and the true reasons that they were constituted in very suspicious ways. A warning from a friend. I recently detailed how recently a retired FEMA friend of mine, his family, and a cadre of like-minded people went into hiding in an attempt to avoid what is happening. One of the things my friend said was the trump card for the elite was to use a series of viruses to debilitate the population prior to the martial takeover of the country. He also stated that the ensuing vaccinations would be the deadliest of all the viral cocktails coming our way. 2 years later, it would appear that my friend's words are reaching critical mass, as the recent events would suggest that an attack on the American people is already underway. In other words, we are already at war and most of us do not even realize it. Why is the government reconstituting deadly viruses? The Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 and 1919 caused the death of 20 to 50 million people worldwide and an estimated 675,000 in the United States. The virus had a mortality rate of approximately 1% to all who were exposed. The 1918 flu has been described as capable of sickening and killing a person on the same day. The virus is an H1N1 type A influenza. Symptoms of the infection were similar to the regular flu, but it is actually far more severe than the actual typical seasonal flu. The main dangers lie in contracting viral pneumonia, leading to acute respiratory distress and subsequent death. As the reader reaches key passages below, one has to wonder if the respiratory distress from the Spanish flu is being reconstituted in the present Enterovirus D68. In the immediate future, our society may wish we would have followed the old axiom, let sleeping dogs lie. Because of an act of extreme insanity, the virus has been reconstituted by the Center for Disease Control researchers. The reconstituted virus was obtained from frozen tissue samples from a female who died of the virus in the 1918 outbreak. In my unqualified personal opinion, I think this is insane. In the New York Times questions the wisdom of such actions, as have many scientists. What if the 1918 flu were to get released? I'm sure you're wondering the same thing that I was wondering as I was doing the research for this article. Just how bad could the 1918 flu pandemic become if the reconstituted virus was to be released into the general population of 2014? In 1918, the world's population was a mere 1.8 billion people. The population of the United States was only 103 million people. Today, the world's population is 7.1 billion, and the population of the United States is 310 million people. If we simply did a geometric projection of the 1918 flu, assuming a current trend, today it would kill over 2 million people in the United States and about 100 million people worldwide. However, pandemics do not spread in a geometric progression, as the transmission would be asymmetrical. Today, the world is a far different place than it was 100 years ago. The country and the world are far more mobile. In the event of a local outbreak, it is not likely that the flu could be contained because of air travel. Even the most astute researchers would not realize what was being dealt with until at least the first several deaths. Subsequently, the alarm would not be sounded for at least 1 to 2 weeks. And then, grounding air travel and limiting civilian mobility would not make any difference. This means that in the present Ebola and Enterovirus D68 crisis, it is already too late to contain these viruses. They are going to run their course, mutate, and even become more deadly. Let me remind you, the U.S. only has 2.5 million doses of Tamiflu. The U.S. spends an inordinate amount of money in the funding for Center for Disease Control and the National Institute of Health, and it looks like a big waste of resources and money. After researching this article, I have come to believe that we waste an inordinate amount of money pretending that we can turn back Mother Nature when in fact we cannot. In fact, before you are done reading this article, you should have some very serious doubts as to whether humanity is under a deliberate attack from the forces of the CDC and NIH. Let's just consider that, for the sake of argument, if the reconstituted 1918 flu were to be released, chaos would reign supreme. Fear would be rampant. We have already reached that level with Ebola. Last Thursday, my son's PE class was playing dodgeball, and the kids began to yell that the ball had Ebola, and the intensity of the game in terms of being struck by the Ebola ball greatly increased the intensity of the game. I'm so glad I homeschool. As I previously pointed out, that in previous years, and under a more virtuous government, there would have been decisive action taken. Clearly, in the past, a medical emergency would have been declared, emergency rooms, hospitals, and doctors' offices quickly would have been overwhelmed, air travel would have been halted, the economy would be in grave danger because commerce would virtually cease due to the fact that nearly everything we buy is shipped. Home confinements would be ordered, and effectively martial law would be declared. However, I am sure that we do not have to worry, because no one from the Obama administration would ever find the idea of a false flag pandemic to be desirable, would they? Before you complete this article, some of you will be answering in the affirmative. The fact is that Ebola, and Enterovirus D68 are going to take their course. There's nothing that can be done. The treason that's coming from the White House is the failure to close air travel from West Africa and to close the border. And notable, it is too late. Just when you don't think it can get any worse. Under the phrase, "What the hell are we thinking?" have you heard that scientists are using scrapings from the teeth of 2 1,500-year-old corpses to recreate bacteria that caused the bubonic plague and the Justinian plague? What is known is that if the plague ever becomes airborne, people could die within 24 hours. Biowarfare is a potential use for this threatening organism, as would be any false flag attack. A release of the bubonic plague and the Justinian plague would produce catastrophic results and make the reconstituted 1918 flu appear to be more of a mere case of the sniffles. This video paints a frightening picture. Is that what will follow in the Enterovirus 68 and Ebola? Do we have anything to worry about? If you only believe in coincidences, then you have nothing to worry about. However, if you believe that everything happens for a reason and purpose, you might want to consider what I brought out several months ago when I mentioned that FEMA earlier in the year were advertising for contractors who were able to supply medical biohazard disposal capabilities along with 40-yard dumpsters to go with 1,000 tent hospitals across the United States. The emergency rollout of these services must be able to be completed in 24 to 48 hours. Don't be fooled by the rapid rollout of resources. As I pointed out before, the authorities realized that they had a potential pandemic on their hands and it would be too late to control the damage. Whatever could be coming must be very big, because FEMA is also seeking to obtain 200,000 doctor's scrubs to be delivered to the 1,000 tent hospitals. That adds up to 20 extra hospitals per state. Aren't these numbers a tantamount admission that whatever is coming will quickly overwhelm the existing medical services? FEMA is also ordering portable showers and toilets, so these facilities would appear that they will be taking on an air of permanence. Can there be any doubt that FEMA is ramping up for the National Disaster Preparedness Program? The sheer numbers clearly point to the enormous size of the coming event. the suspicious worldwide emergence of multiple forms of the Enterovirus D68 and Ebola. All of these people up here, with links provided, have documented the sudden appearance of Enterovirus D68 in 1962. The virus seemingly came from nowhere, lending credence to the notion that the virus was artificially developed. Also, it is suspicious that the virus only manifested in 26 cases that were reported between 1970 and 2005. Now it's rampant. The original clinical presentation of Enterovirus D68 infections in 1962 to 2005 outbreaks ranged from mild illness to complications requiring hospitalizations and very rare instances death. The virus has morphed at an exceptional rate, and it has become very dangerous. The rate of viral adaptation is notable and does not appear to follow an expected mutation scheme. This lends rise to the conspiracy theories which state that the virus was artificially developed prior to 1962 and was purposely and dramatically mutated just prior to 2005, when we began to see a dramatic rise in the number of presenting cases, as well as lethality of these cases. The poliovirus is composed of the RNA genome and has manifested within Enterovirus D68. It is the only one of 4 mutations of the Enterovirus D68 virus. Yet, for some reason, the poliovirus, the most deadly, is leading the way in Enterovirus D68 infection cases. The odds are 1 in 4 that this development is due to chance. This fact should make every researcher ask questions. The odds of natural selection do not favor Enterovirus D68 manifesting in its present form of the poliovirus. It looks like the virus has had help in mutating in order to make it more deadly. Along the same lines, Ebola as follows: a very suspicious path, and it has questionable past. Presently, there's no treatment for Ebola. The most that can be done for a patient is what's called supported therapy, which entails balancing fluids and electrolytes, blood pressure, oxygen, monitoring for other infections. Like Enterovirus D68, the Ebola virus seemingly appeared out of nowhere in 1976, as Ebola was discovered by the Ebola River in Zaire. Just like Enterovirus D68, there's no suitable explanation on how or why both viruses suddenly appeared and then became so dangerous. One theory is that some doctors that I have interviewed believe is probable is that many of the treatments directed towards both Enterovirus D68 and Ebola have tried to work by blocking the RNA one-time sequencing and adaptation. These medical sources privately state that this would cause the virus to mutate in an out-of-control manner, because RNA only attempts to bind to one virus at a time, unlike its counterpart DNA. I have further been told by my sources that current Ebola vaccine being developed by GSK works on the same principle. My fear is that the virus will morph from one that can infect its victims through aerosolized and close proximity, airborne means within tight contained spaces such as an airplane or restroom, to one which the virus can remain forever airborne over vast distances. If these viruses become airborne in the same manner as flu, it will be Katie, bar the door, as there will be nowhere that we can run and hide from these deadly effects. The CDC patent is explained. The morphing and mutation of Ebola explains why the CDC would be allowed the patent to the virus. In other words, it's been artificially constituted to mutate from its original state. Therefore, the CDC was not allowed to patent something from nature. The same reason why they won't release the cure for cancer, marijuana, because you can't actually patent it. They were allowed to patent something that had been purposefully mutated. Are vaccines complicit in the spread of deadly viruses? In the recent briefing with my sources, I was also told that the illegal immigrant children that had came into America presented with none of these RNA-type viruses if they had never been vaccinated. Subsequently, my sources believe that the previous vaccinations served as a bigger trigger event to initiate possible replication of a virus within a host. The American public is in desperate need of qualified biologists to investigate all of these allegations. Death's ground. Viruses have survived for years by being placed upon death's ground. However, it is now humans that have been placed on death's ground. We have a rare opportunity to expose the severe corruption in the history of the United States. There's what you know and what you can prove. The case implicating the CDC for treason against the American people is circumstantially strong. However, if we can piece together the origins of these pathogens and correlate them with the function of the vaccines, and the inaction of the CDC, the NIH, and the Obama administration as a whole, we can wake up a lot of Americans. Although I no longer believe that we can thwart the spread of Enterovirus D68 and Ebola viruses, we might be able to call enough public attention to the future viruses coming from the reconstituted Spanish flu and the Justinian's plague to force a temporary retreat by the globalists. We do not have much time to react because recent actions of the elite would suggest that we are going to be hit with wave after wave of attacks from these viruses. So I'm going to jump to my other article. This one came out today. This is the second one that I found in the last week of a small child being killed by Enterovirus D68. This kid was 6. It happened in Arizona. The first one that I came across was a 18-month-old girl or 2-month-old girl who went to bed showing no signs of Enterovirus D68, and she never woke up. And when she was autopsied, they found that she had died of Enterovirus D68 with no symptoms. I mean, it's really scary. So this is a whole article about basically how attendance at... Another thing I found in a lot of these articles is that attendance across the nation at schools has been down by about 10%, and people just don't want to send their kids to school, and I don't blame them. I'm really glad I homeschool. Like, every day I get more glad that I homeschool, because I can't imagine the fear, and I hate to say it, but the fear of sending my kid to school, I mean, in this kind of a, you know, pandemic, and, you know, it's a really scary thing. So, anyways, we have these kids that are being, you know, killed by enterovirus, and they seem to be the ones that are most susceptible to it. And the reason why I'm putting this post out today is because today was actually the first day that I woke up. I got on Facebook, and a couple of my friends and family from Facebook have been diagnosed with enterovirus, are sick, and are really not doing well, and they had not heard of the cures for it, and probably half of them think I'm crazy anyway, because they're just going to end up going to the hospital, and, you know, like it says in the other articles, there's really no cure. They just, they're not... The problem with Western society that this article that I'm about to get to really goes over is that we've stopped using the real cures and we've substituted it for things that mask the symptoms. So this is the real cure for enterovirus, D68, for Ebola, and for 99 to 100% of the viruses and bacteria out there. Basically, this link, which I will put in the comment section underneath, outlines a lot of the things that colloidal silver can be used for. And yes, I already did a video about how colloidal silver is the cure for Ebola, and I did a little bit more in-depth research because it was suggesting that nanosilver is more favorable than colloidal silver. But what I've found is that yes, nanosilver is actually more effective. It's also more expensive. A little bit more. I mean, you can get those tubes for like 25 bucks or whatever. It's not that bad, but I ended up buying the colloidal silver. Basically because when I researched it and how it's made, all of which is described down here, it is effective at removing 99 to 100% of viruses, bacteria, and pathogens in the body. So I'm taking my chances on colloidal silver, especially while it's still available, because when I got it, there wasn't a lot left, and I got it from Amazon. A lot of the websites online were already sold out of the colloidal silver that I wanted to get, and so I ended up going on Amazon and they had it on there. If I go down, this is kind of a short list of some of the things that colloidal silver will take care of. Bacteria, viruses, protozoa, etc. And basically, you know, it goes over a lot of that type of stuff, and colloidal silver is really just the best thing that you can have on hand to thwart any sort of illness before you even get it. Just taking a little bit every day, a little bit every couple days even, will keep you from getting sick. And, you know, there are plenty of instructions on how not to take too much colloidal silver, you know, and how to give it to your children and use it on children without, you know, using too much. And, you know, really I think a lot of this problem in America stems from people not wanting to take responsibility for their own health. People so often jump right to going to the hospital and going to doctors when they get sick, especially with this enterovirus and Ebola stuff, and all they're doing is quarantining people with Ebola and, you know, watching them die. And, you know, Enterovirus D68, same thing. No cure, but, you know, they're not using the real cures out there. Colloidal silver has been used for a very long time, and actually, as this link talks about, it used to be used in the 20s and before then, medically. And then when we started going out of traditional medicine and exploring new Western medicine where we mask the symptoms of everything, all of those things got thrown out the window. And, you know, I like how doctors try to blame all of the non-vaccinating parents for the rise in all of these viruses and shit that, you know, hasn't been seen in forever. But in the research I've done, it seems to me that it's not us parents that are, you know, not vaccinating our kids. It's the government releasing viruses and doing other things, you know. And on top of it, there are real cures out there, you know, and they're just not mainstream. So if you want to put your health in someone else's hands, then that's what you get. You know, you're not going to get the real cure. They don't make money off of curing people. They make money off of killing people and making them sick permanently, which is what most of those vaccines do, and as we went over in the previous article. So anyways, colloidal silver is an amazing thing to have on hand. Stock up on it while you can. It's going very quickly. This is actually the one that I bought, because like I said, a lot of the websites were sold out online. So I went over here to Amazon. I got 500 parts per million colloidal silver, and it's in a 2-ounce bottle. They also have a 4-ounce bottle. You can see that this is going quick because there's only 7 left in stock. I actually stocked up yesterday and there was 9 left. So 2 people have bought it today. And that's just this one that I bought. There are other ones that are different parts per million, bigger bottles, smaller bottles. This one I picked because they were $16 a piece, and they were 2-ounce bottles, and it seemed like a really good deal. The next size up was like a 4-ounce bottle for like $30. So, anyways, I ended up getting this one. But I highly recommend the colloidal silver, stocking up on it, keeping it in your bug-out bags, in your medical supply bags, in your house. And, you know, reclaim your health. Be responsible for your health. You can take preventative measures to not get sick, and you won't have to worry about Ebola. I'm not worried about getting Ebola. I'm worried about the people around me that don't want to take responsibility for their health getting Ebola, and then, you know, some CDC douchebags trying to quarantine me because I had contact with someone. That's what I worry about, you know? And I can't believe that as a nation, people are just sitting back and watching this and letting it happen while they open up the FEMA camps and let this spread so that they can have their martial law and their end game. You know, this is all their end game. So, anyways, stock up on the colloidal silver, good on Ebola, good on Enterovirus D68. It's the best thing I can say. And as some of my friends on Facebook pointed out, colloidal silver is very easy to make. There's a girl on my Facebook who said she makes it, and it's really easy. And this website that I linked over here talks about how to make it. So, anyways, if you want to make your own, that's cool. I ordered it because I wanted the high parts per million. I'm like that. So, anyways, I have enough stuff to do. I don't have time to make colloidal silver. I still have a lot of Etsy orders to get caught up on and all that stuff to do. So, I don't need anything else to make in my life. Anyways, stock up on colloidal silver. I can't say it enough. It will seriously work. And then one other thing that I've been looking at is doTERRA essential oils. doTERRA does a bunch of these essential oils that can help you prevent getting sick. It has a lot of this type of stuff in it, colloidals and all of that. So you can go to doTERRA, I think it's doTERRA.com, but they have really good essential oils for preventing sickness and stuff like that. But really, like, most recommended, stock up on this colloidal silver while it's available, because I guarantee that in another 2 weeks, there's probably not going to be that much out there. It's already going down. So anyways, love and light, guys. Stay safe. You know, stay healthy, and, you know, hang in there. Love and light.